Hey guys, Survival Mouse back with another video. Excuse me, Corona. So today I wanted to do a video. I'm going to talk about fishing, as you can probably tell from the title and the thumbnail. Most people, I guess, are like me. When they first think of fishing, they think of a bobber and a worm off the hook just sitting there, kind of boring. And that's what I used to think. And I was talking to a friend of mine one day at work, and she said something about going bass fishing, and I said, well, I don't really fish very much. It's, it seems kind of boring. And she said, well, that's because you don't know how to fish. And turns out she was right. So she told me, hey, let's go fishing, and I'll show you how to fish. So I said, okay. Well, that was like 3 days later that she had planned this. So me being me, I got on YouTube and watched about 80 different videos on fishing. And then when we went fishing, I taught her some stuff. So I used to find it boring until I realized that bass fishing is a complete strategy game, which intrigued me because if you don't do things right, you're not going to catch any fish. And so before this, the only time I'd ever caught any fish was fish traps and fish weirs, doing the survival thing. I've speared fish, I've bow fished, I've caught fish by hand actually. I've caught them in the little M traps and the weirs and things like that, but I've never actually really gone fishing. I had when I was a child with my father, but it was the little button Zebcos that you just throw, and it was probably an inline spinner or maybe a worm and bobber, and that's all I knew about fishing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about fishing, and maybe it might be something that interests you. If not, then, at least you learned something. So when it comes to bass fishing, there's the different seasons dictate how they're going to act. Now, right now we're in spring, and spring is a whole different ball game because in spring you have the pre-spawn, then you have the spawn, then you have the post-spawn. Right now we're in post-spawn on the lakes that I'm at. And so pre-spawn, they're really aggressive, and they're getting ready to lay the eggs and go up on bed, and the males guard the beds. And the males, they may not eat for a month or two while they're guarding the beds. So before spawn, they eat like crazy. You can throw anything in the water and pre-spawn, and they'll attack it. They're super aggressive. Their hormones are pumping and telling them to start being aggressive. Because during the spawn, they go out, they find a female, they push her back to their bed. Well, they don't really push her, they just kind of got her. But they go back to the bed. The female lays the eggs on the bed, and the male sits on those eggs and protects them, because as they come out and they turn into the little fish fry, they're not even the size of a finger. They call them fingerlings. They're not even an inch long. It's his sole job to protect them, so he's super aggressive during that time to protect those fry, because things like bluegill and shad, other fish will eat those eggs. So he's, real aggressive around that bed. So then you have the post-spawn. In the post-spawn, the females have laid all their eggs, so they're a lot skinnier. And the males, they're skinny because they haven't really been eating, because they've been protecting the bed. So post-spawn, you'll catch them because they're hungry, but they're a lot skinnier than they were pre-spawn. Pre-spawn is when people catch the biggest fish of their life, is pre-spawn, because that's when the females have the big bellies and they're full of eggs and everything's eating really hard and trying to fatten up. So that's springtime. Well, when they do that, they come up shallow. So one thing to know about bass is a lot of time bass, they like structure and cover. And what that means is if you had a perfectly circular lake, then it's kind of a crapshoot where they'll be. But if you have a point on that lake, or a place where the land comes out and comes back, bass will be on that point, because that's where they'll hunt, because anything that has to move around there has to cross that point. So a lot of times when they're hungry or hunting, they'll be up against a point. But they also like structure and cover, so things like where you have a tree that's in the water, or you have boulders there in the water, anything that they can kind of put their back against and know nothing's going to get them from behind, and they can watch and see when something's coming, because bass are ambush predators. So they'll, excuse me, they'll sit there and wait for something to come by, and then they'll strike out and grab it. So they're ambushers. So, which is why when you throw a bait in front of them and it moves the right way and they think it's vulnerable enough, they'll lash out and grab it. So your baits, you want to mimic whatever they're eating. So it's called matching the hatch. So a lot of time matching the hatch, you know, if the shad are spawning, which is about this time of year, you know, May or so, if the shad are spawning, then you want to throw something that imitates a shad. Or if it's bluegill, then you'll imitate something that's bluegill. So those same colors. And colors is pretty important. It's not the most important thing, but it's pretty important. So you can throw something that's the right bait, but not necessarily the right color, and you may not catch as many fish. But if you throw something that has the right action to it, and it mimics the color and the action of the fish that they're eating, then they'll go for that most of the time. You still got to put it in front of a hungry fish's face. You know, you can find the fish all day long. If they're not eating, they're not eating. They're not going to get your lure. So there's a bunch of different types of lures. So the easiest one probably to start out with is just get a hook and get some worms. And the hook is going to be the offset worm hooks. And I'll show some in a future video. I plan on doing more fishing tutorial style videos. Just learn as I learn. I'm not extremely good at it, but I do catch fish, and I enjoy it. It's become one of those things that I do just when I want to relax. I've got a boat now and a truck, and I spend a lot of time during this whole pandemic thing fishing. It's a good way to spend time with the kids. So get you a worm, a little plastic worm, a trick worm is what I use a lot of, and a hook, that type of hook, the wide gap, offset shank worm hook. And rig it up, do a Texas rig. You can look that up, how to do a Texas rig. But that makes it to where the hook won't grab all the leaves and sticks and everything else that's on your pond or on your leg or whatever. And so it goes through cover and goes through the structure, so you can throw it anywhere and it's not going to get snagged up so easy. And it's as simple as that. You just let it fall and then, you know, twitch it a few times every now and then, and they'll eat that up. That's good for things like this, like a river. Those work perfect on. Now, if it's fast-moving current, you'll want a little bit of weight, or if you want it to be on the bottom, you'll put a little weight on it and just kind of hop it on the bottom. But that's probably the easiest way to start out. But there's a ton, if you've ever walked down Walmart or gone to a Bass Pro or anything like that, you know there is a ton of baits. So each bait is basically mimicking something different. So something like a jerk bait, which has a little lip on it that causes it to dive as you pull, as you reel, that lip on the front causes it to go down in the water column. And as you twitch it, it looks like a little bait fish running back and forth, and it'll change directions. So as you do that, it'll mimic a frantic bait fish trying to run away. And so that triggers them to come out and attack it because it looks vulnerable. Another thing out there is called a crankbait, and most of the time crankbaits are a lot shorter than jerkbaits, but they're fatter, taller. And those mimic a fish, but it's not meant to be really jerked. It's just a steady retrieve, and it'll wobble as it comes forward. That's a good beginner bait because that works all year long. A jerkbait works all year long, but a crankbait is just a toss out there and a steady retrieve back. So, like I say, I'll show all these in a future video and talk more about them. So a crankbait is really good all year long because it just kind of mimics a little dumb bait fish just moving along, and you push it past, throw it where you think they'll be ready to ambush, and it just looks like a dumb fish that just, you know, ran right in front of a predator, and they'll reach out and grab it as an opportunistic prey. So next, you have jigs. Now there is a ton of different types of jigs on the market. So basically, the one I would recommend is just go get a regular swim jig or a Archie style jig. That way you can put it on the bottom, you can hop it along the bottom, but you can also just toss it in and swim it. And depending on how fast you swim is how high up in the water, how fast you reel is how high up in the water column it is. So if you're reeling it really fast, it'll stay up toward the top. If you reel it really slow, it'll stay toward the bottom. So jigs, you can put trailers on them like a Kitech or any little soft plastic bait that you can stick on the back of that hook, and it makes it look like a fish, and that skirt that's on it, those little strings on the jig, give it that secondary flow and make it move a lot. So that's a really good one, kind of all year round, really good in the winter. So in the wintertime, they really slow down and they go really deep. So a jig works great for wintertime because they've slowed down, you can set it on the bottom and just twitch, switch, leave it for a second, and twitch, twitch. And a bass that's not even really active will still look at that and go, well, this is dumb, and you know, take it. So go back to the seasons. So we were talking about spring. You got the pre-spawn when they're aggressive, spawn when the males will not bite anything unless you put it on the bed, and then you have post-spawn where they're hungry. After post-spawn, they're going to go back to they're going to start transitioning and go back to their summer hunting grounds. So during the summer when it's really hot, they're going to go, they kind of split up. Some will stay shallow and some will go deep. And so if you're a bank fisherman, obviously you're targeting the shallow ones if you don't have a boat or a kayak or something like that. Now it is a blast to bass fish with a kayak. So you're targeting the ones up that split up and go up shallow. So when they go up shallow, they'll be under shade a lot of the time. So any grass mats or anything like that, they'll get up under those. So that's where the frogs and topwaters and things like that come in, where you see where they sell something that mimics a frog. That's meant to be tossed on top of those grass mats and jerked along, and they'll come up from the bottom and hit it. And that's by far the most exciting of the topwater bites, is the one where they blast up out of the bottom and grab it in the air and take it under. A lot of people set the hook too quick and rip it right out of their mouths before they actually get a hold of it when they do that. Me being one of them. So there's topwaters, anything with a big blade on top, like a buzzbait. Those things are meant to make a wake on the top. And there's all these categories I'm talking about. There's a ton of subcategories, and we'll get into that in the future. If everybody likes this video, give this a like, and that'll let me know you want more of these top videos, and I'll do more. And like I say, I'll show the different baits we're talking about. We'll go more in depth into this. You can learn with me. So next bait that I would say is any glide bait. Now glide bait doesn't have a lip on it, and they usually look like they mimic another bait fish. So it might be a bluegill, it might be a shad, and they'll have treble hooks on them a lot of the times. They'll have a treble hook on the bottom, treble hook on the back, so that as the bass comes up and grabs it, he'll get one of those treble hooks. And then those are same as jigs, depending on how fast you reel them, is where at in the water column. The only bad thing about those is if you have grass mats, if you have cover, trees, or anything like that, you're going to lose that lure. That is by far not the one to start with, because it's going to get hung up, and some of those get expensive. They get $5, $6, $7, $8 a bait, and it's going to get hung up on everything. So if you're fishing around cover, if you're a bank fisherman, I suggest not even messing with it. I would stick to soft plastics. Now soft plastics, there's a million different soft plastics. There's bait fish soft plastics, there's crawfish soft plastic, and crawfish, a lot of the ponds and anything that has a stream coming into it will usually have crawfish, and so you can put those on the bottom and swim them, and they'll eat that up certain times of the year. So in the summer when they go deep, that's a good option for that. Jigs is a good option for that. Deep diving crankbaits, deep diving jerk baits, anything that'll get down to them. Oh, look at that. He's got him a rat. That was a big bird. Looked like a hawk. Anything that dives deep like that, to get down to those. Now, where do those go? They'll go to structure that's deeper. So you'll have, if you look on a fish finder, you'll see boulders and rock piles or trees or brush piles that's underneath the water and things like that, or humps that come up higher in the water column. If you don't have a fish finder, you can look on an app called Navionics, and it looks like a topographic map like the military has, only it's for underwater. So you can get an idea, even without a fish finder, of where you need to cast and where the fish will probably be, because they exclusively use those structures and cover and offshore boulders and pot and things like that. They don't just swim off straight through the deep for no reason. They're where they're going to find food, where they're going to be protected from other prey. So a lot of the times you're only going to find them on structure and cover. So then you go into fall. Now in the fall they go back up in the shallows. As the water starts cooling down, they chase up those bait fish. They go up into the mouths of the creeks and they come back shallow. So a great time for the bank fishermen is the spring and the fall. Summer is okay, but you're going to have to fish the mats and a lot of the structure with the shadows and shade and things like that, docks, stuff like that. But then in the winter, they come back out and they go back deep. And that's where they'll remain until that water hits around 55 degrees or so, and it tells them, hey, it's time to start spawning again. Now that water comes up quicker than a lot of people think, that water temperature. At the same time, that water temperature, you know, it might be 80 degrees out, but it's been 40 degrees the past few weeks. That water's not going to be 80 degrees. It takes a little while to heat it up. The shallower lakes are going to heat up quicker. Therefore, their spawn is going to happen faster than the deeper lakes. So for instance, around me, I have Lake Allatoona, Carter's Lake. Now, Lake Allatoona is really shallow. I say that, there's deep parts, but most of it's really shallow. And Carter's Lake is like, I don't know, 800 foot deep at the deepest spot. It's a really, really deep lake. So Carter's Lake is going to have a spawn way later than Allatoona, because it takes longer for that water to heat up. So because of that, you can hit the spawn at one lake and be killing them, and then go to the next lake later on in the year and be killing them there on the same spawn. So whatever worked for you at this place might work at the next place. So, you know, pick your lakes that you're going to fish on that. So if it's a really shallow, you know, when it's a warm day, if it's a really shallow lake, it's going to heat up quicker. So going back into the baits, spinnerbaits. Now spinnerbaits work all year long, but a lot of time people reel them too fast. They don't have a trailer, they don't have a trailer hook. The thing with spinnerbaits is do them slow. The main mistake people make when they're bass fishing is they're just burning that bait back. Take your time, make it look like a fish. Look at it in the water and think, have you ever seen a fish move like that? Do they dart around all the time? No, because that's wasting a lot of the energy. And it's all an energy game for a fish. It's a survival game, so it's food in versus energy out. If they don't think they're going to catch it, they're not going to expend the energy to chase it down. If they think they have a shot, they'll give it a shot. So when you zoom it past them, they go, not worth it. But if you take it slow past them and just give it a few twitches every now and then, they think that's a vulnerable prey and they'll go after it. So there's a few tips. If you guys like this video and want me to, you know, go deeper into this topic, let me know. Hit the like button or comment down below and let me know, and we'll go in a little deeper into it. And maybe you'll find some joy in it like I did. I used to hate fishing like that. Used to think it would be really boring. I got into it and I absolutely love it, because for me it's all a strategy game. If it's cloudy outside or there's chop on the water, it's windy, then I know I can throw things like spinnerbaits and jerkbaits and stuff that has a lot of thump to it, or bladed jigs. But if it's completely sunny outside and it's just a bluebird sky and the water's really clear, then I know that I need to throw something natural with a lighter line. If it's dirty water, then I know I need to go to either a blacker color or brighter color and have some sort of sound making device, or rattles, or bladed jig, or again a spinner with maybe Colorado blades, something that helps them zone in on it. There's a whole strategy to this that we can get into and talk to. And like I say, learn as I go, because I'm new to this too. I've only been doing it about 1.5 years, 2 years now. But I've really enjoyed it. So if you guys like this video, let me know, and I'll be back to you as soon as I can with another video. Thanks for watching.